Board of Court Reporting, which is governed by all the 25 top judges in the state that comes under them, under whatever, some kind of thing they're on. And they initially dismissed it. Here's affidavits. There was no evidence to the contrary. Yeah. You know how the game goes.
Yeah.
And then I appealed that, and so then they came back with a decision allegedly by the 25 judges. And the 25 judges came back and cited a case that said that whenever there's a discrepancy in the transcript, you have to go back to the judge. So, okay, so the judge falsifies the transcript, and my sole remedy is to go back and say that's ridiculous.
Right, I know.
It's not a valid thing. And so, you know, nobody will ever do anything.
Well, I've got this concept that America has been corrupted from judges out, and the first layer is the clerks. Getting the clerks to alter records, getting the clerks to do all that such, and then of course it's the lawyers. You disbar the lawyers that complain about their clients' hearing tapes being edited. And you know, I've been well. The reason I get into making my videos is the same reason that you're doing it. That until we get it on the record in Congress, there's nothing there for them to correct through the legislative process, through the funding or whatever. So I've proven that 6 Massachusetts courts altered the records to kidnap my son. Then I went to U.S. District Court, and they altered the records there too.
Let me have him stick this in front of you, then we'll get all this on camera.
All right, there you go.
There's no sync, right?
I'm paying attention.
You're paying attention, you know the drill. All right, Zed, look right straight at the camera, and on Lyle's cue, now, my name is Zed McClarnon on his signal.
My name is Zed McClarnon.
City and state.
Malden, Massachusetts.
All right. Family court corruption, government corruption. Do you have any criminal court corruption to talk about?
Yeah, you know, I became a forensic investigator, an expert witness. I was, well, let me go back a little further.
All right, well, here's what we'll do. Just look at the camera and do family court corruption first, and then we're going to...
Family court, oh, I'm sorry.
That's right. There you go.
Family court corruption.
All right, now do government corruption.
Okay. Government corruption.
And then now do I'm a forensic investigator.
I'm a forensic investigator and expert witness.
Perfect. All right, now, my name is Zed McClarnon. I'm from, was it Malden?
Yeah.
Malden, Massachusetts. I'm a victim of family court corruption and government corruption. I'm also a forensic investigator and an expert witness.
Okay. My name is Zed McClarnon. I'm from Malden, Massachusetts. I'm a victim of court corruption and government corruption. I am... Oh, I'm sorry. I spaced out a little bit there.
It's okay.
You ready to go again?
Okay. My name is Zed McClarnon. I'm from Malden, Massachusetts. I'm a victim of court corruption, family court corruption, and government corruption. I'm a forensic expert and, well, I'm a forensic investigator and expert witness. Have been since 1984.
Are you happy with that, or you want to do it one more time?
It's okay, I guess.
Okay, now we're ready for your 3-minute testimony to Congress.
Okay.
Did you write one?
Well, I did, but I don't know if you remember it. I suggested that we go to the Concord Green, and I did that. But I can.
We'll wing it, and I'll give you signals.
Yeah.
2, 1, 30 seconds, or wrap her up.
Okay. All right.
And to start by introducing yourself, give us an overview, give us some specifics, and when I get to a fist, as soon as you can, get into a statement of what needs to change, what needs to be done, call for action kind of deal. you're speaking to 16 members of Congress and 16 members of your state legislature, so you have eye contact wherever you choose.
Okay.
And at the end, just stop, and if you make a mistake, you don't get a do-over, you just keep going.
Okay. So do I look at you?
Look anywhere you want in the room.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah. My name is Zed McLarnon. I'm a forensic investigator and expert witness. I'm a victim of court corruption. My son was kidnapped from me in court under color of law by courts illegally altering the transcripts, hearing tapes, dockets, and case files to frame me as an abuser. And basically my son was kidnapped by way of a series, a 10-year series of false restraining orders. My ex-wife married an appointee of the governor, and he and 3 of his social worker friends all submitted clinical evaluations on me without ever having met nor interviewed me. Now, my lawyer and I hired independent engineers to analyze the court hearing tapes. The 2 independent engineers corroborated my thesis. I had analyzed the tapes and found the first 4 hearing tapes were heavily edited. Everything that I had found as being edited, the other engineers independently corroborated. I've taken that evidence to all of my state officials, the DA, the Attorney General, took it to the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, the U.S. Attorney, the Department of Justice, Office of the Inspector General. All of them covered it up. I've taken my evidence to the House Judiciary Committee, where I requested that I become a private attorney general, of which I am qualified, and they basically covered that up. It was issued, it was on the way to me, and then they somehow derailed that and I didn't get it. So I went to the Oversight Committee, Darrell Issa. He has personal knowledge that state and federal courts operate as criminal enterprises, and so too Lamar Smith of the House Judiciary Committee. Eric Holder, Attorney General Eric Holder, and President Barack Obama also have been notified that the state and federal courts operate as criminal enterprises. All of them cover this up. It's bipartisan cover-up of court corruption nationally.
Whatever.
Was that a presentation? Was that okay?
That was one.
Cool.
27, 10, 15.
Okay, roll. Well, Zed, you and I see things the same way it really is.
Right.
Which is terrible. Go back and while I want to get your thoughts on all this, the things that you've learned and seen that happens with the courts, go back and tell us the story with your son. And when did you and your wife meet and get married?
Oh, okay. You know, we under pressure we snap back to maybe our childhood, the beings that we were when we were being brought up in our families. And obviously coming from a Nazi family, she was very dysfunctional. She couldn't verbalize her needs and wants or dislikes. She wasn't allowed to do that with bringing up. So she acted out a lot, and finally I left, and we went to a therapist for a while to do the financial thing, because we both agreed it would be amicable. But then she got tied in with This was in '84, and she brought false allegations of abuse against me, and after a while, they were proven to be false, and she broke down under oath and admitted they were false. Now that was back in '85. Those allegations were ordered, put to rest, and we divorced in 1986 I wanted full custody, but the court said, okay, we're going to have 50% custody. I was one of the few men who was awarded actual physical custody of my son, because she had been lying to the court.
When was your son born?
In March 1981. So that seems like a long time ago, but so we shared custody until 1994, when she went back into court and accused me of the exact same allegations of abuse as 10 years earlier in 1984. But she had married a social worker, an appointee of Governor Bill Weld. He was appointed in his affidavit. He submitted. He wrote that he was appointed to train judges, court personnel, police, and social workers regarding domestic violence. Now, what did he teach them? He's the guy. He's the golden thread that from court to court to court, as I said, 6 Massachusetts courts illegally altered the court records to frame me as an abuser. He and his friends, who never met me, submitted social worker evaluations. All they did was repeat my ex-wife's allegations as fact, even though those very allegations were ordered put to rest back in as part of the divorce agreement back in 1986. So from 1994 to 2004, there was a series of restraining orders. Finally, I said to the judge, if you're not going to vacate this, I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit. My ex-wife was going for a lifetime restraining order. And I told the judge, if you don't vacate this restraining orders, I'm going to go to a federal judge using Mitchum versus Foster, which says that after 1 year, a federal judge can overturn the state judge's restraining orders if there's no incidences of abuse within that year period. Well, this is 10 years later, and all of my court hearing tapes have been altered to remove my evidence. Even though I had those fraudulent clinical evaluations struck from the record, they kept on showing back up. They kept on being brought back in. They poisoned, no matter what court I went to, they poisoned my case. And so finally the judge issued an order. This is after 10 years of restraining orders, saying that the very first affidavit by my ex-wife failed to cite any abuse. So there was 10 years of restraining orders, 10 years where I didn't get to see my son. He didn't get to know that they were vacated. Basically, he is like in a cult of abuse, it's been called. I don't know if you remember the nanny trial here in Boston. Her lawyer, I'm trying to think of his name right now, he's the guy that coined the phrase cult of abuse, because the nanny was innocent. I don't know if you remember, but they took a portion of the kid's scalp, and the judge ordered it, the same judge as in my case, the same prosecutors as in my case. They did not give half of the scalp sample to the defense so that the nanny's lawyers could do their forensic work on it and see what was happening. So that's destruction of evidence. So the same people destroyed my evidence by removing it from the court hearing tapes. And I became I was recruited into forensics in 1984. Well, 1982, and then my training was over in 1984. And between 1984 and when I walked into family court in 1994, I won all my cases, and I would have argued with you then that the court system worked. That, you know, because I won all my cases, everything was going fine. Then I walked into family court in 1994, my life has not been the same since. I have become an enemy of my state and the federal government. Even though I've done no wrong, I've been prosecuted, I've been thrown in jail, I've been dragged 2 days after I beat the Attorney General in court. I get dragged from my car, beaten. I had to be hospitalized with the threat that if I go back to court, I'll never see my son again. Well, I went back to court, I've never seen my son again. And as I said, I've given the evidence. I've had third-party engineers, people I didn't know, corroborate all of my forensic analyzing of the court hearing tapes and the transcripts and the court files and all that such. I became credited as the first person to prove that courts alter hearing tapes and dockets and case files to kidnap children under color of law. And since then, I've been attracting families from across the country whose lawyers, they find me after their lawyers sell them out and after their kids have been taken away and such like that. And I've got a pretty good record of getting kids back to their loving families and exposing crimes in courts. Right now I'm working on several cases in several states, including, you might know, Carla Johnson in Phoenix. I just came back from there. I just did a video. I went there to do a video on her case. And I'm accusing John McCain, Senator John McCain, and Sheriff Joe Arpaio of treason for turning a blind eye to courts that operate as criminal enterprises that kidnap children under color of law. So her case, I've reviewed the evidence. She's got doctors on her side saying that the medical abuse never happened. The CPS don't have any medical corroboration from a doctor. You cannot, therefore they can't possibly, physics-wise, have a preponderance of evidence, because anything that a CPS worker says, if it's not corroborated by a doctor, is inadmissible hearsay. So it's just physics-wise not possible for them to get a preponderance of the evidence, because all the doctors are on Carla's daughter's side. But they still go ahead and they've taken 3 children away from her. And yesterday, just so that you'll know, they separated Carla. They wouldn't let Carla in the courtroom. They took the daughter, 22-year-old girl, into the courtroom by herself with 5 assistant attorney generals. The judge, 2 attorneys from the appeals court. They turned down all of her requests. She hasn't received transcripts from her first child, yet they went ahead and prosecuted her to remove her second child, and went ahead and prosecuted her to remove the third child, even though they refused to give her transcripts of hearings where she did well and proved that CPS's allegations were false. Anyway, that's just an aside, just to let you know. I get involved in the most horrific of cases across the country, and like I said, I've got a pretty good record of returning children to their families. But it's amazing to me that judges are beyond corrupt, Bill. They're beyond corrupt. They're psychotic. Because of what they were doing to me, I went to the Social Security Administration, and I believe I'm the first person in the country to get a disability based on judicial corruption, judicial malfeasance. I went to them and I said, look, you're doctors. If another doctor his malfeasance was hurting me, you would have to intercede, right? They said yes. And I said, well, this other professional is a judge, and it's his malfeasance that's hurting me. And here's the records, and you as scientific medical doctors can check it out and see what you think. They gave me a disability saying no one should have to live like this. Now, you've heard of post-traumatic stress syndrome regarding people who lost their children. That's not what I got. I got a disability based on judicial corruption. So I went to Mass General Hospital, and I applied for their help, and I got a good, eventually I got a good doctor. He's the head of the mental health program. And I ran this concept of judges who are so corrupt, they've been surrounded by corruption, that they've gone that next step. They are now psychotic, like Hitler was psychotic, like Mussolini, like Napoleon, like the Caesars. When you have unlimited power with no accountability and no supervision, a great deal of the people snap and just go into their own world. I've had judges tell me to stop citing the law, Mr. McLarnon. I am the law. Now, you and I both know we're supposed to be a country of laws, not people. Well, he's putting himself above the law. In federal court, I went to federal court, as I said. I got the wife of Judge Zobel in state court. He did my state court. So, and his wife, I got her as my federal judge. She wouldn't recuse herself. She thought she could be fair. But she knew who I was ahead of time. I asked her to appoint me a lawyer, and she said, no, you know, we all know your reputation. You can do okay by yourself. This is somebody I never met. You know, I'd only talked to her for about a couple of minutes. Anyway, she said, what's your problem with the state judges? I said, okay, they illegally altered the court transcripts. They participated in a criminal conspiracy with the defendants in the courtroom under color of law. They violated their oath of office. They violated their professional oaths. And she said, well, if he had his cloak on, he's immune. Not the law. His cloak gave him immunity. I mean, do you see what I could go on and on giving you quotes like this. These people are nuts. They have abandoned the law, and they believe that anything that they say holds water. And it's just, it's unbelievable the concepts that I've run into from judges. They claim that they've been assured, Bill, that the transcripts are correct. They don't cite any references as to when a little bird whispered. You know, it's unbelievable that they, you know, as a scientist, as a forensic expert, it's pathetic. These people have just abandoned all scientific, legal references to law. It's all about them. It's all about their discretion. It's all about the federal rules of civil procedure. The federal rules of civil procedure and the federal rules of criminal procedure. That's where they snuck in judicial immunity. That's where the judges may do this and the judges may do that. Whereas if you refer to the law says judges must do this. In other words, when the Supreme Court issues citations, they say when fraud exists, the court must dismiss. So if you cite that, you've got a case where no discretion. But I don't know if you know this, but they snuck the federal rules of civil procedure and the federal rules of criminal procedure in during Second World War, when everybody's attention was in Europe on the war. they snuck in these rules of civil and criminal procedure, and that's where judicial immunity comes from. That's where discretion comes from. And so the big breakthrough that I made was that when I write motions now, I don't quote the federal rules of civil procedure nor the criminal procedure. I quote the law or Supreme Court rulings. It seems like what I've discovered is that your local family courts, your local district courts, your appeals courts, they're all corrupt because they're all trained by one person, my ex-wife's husband. And interestingly, all those people that he cites, that he trains, they all receive Violence Against Women Act funds. That's an act that's unconstitutional on its face. But, I mean, nobody wants violence against women, but I've got judges on tape saying that 80% of the cases are false allegations to gain an upper hand in divorce or retribution, whatever. So these judges who see these cases every day issue restraining orders with women who don't have any marks on them, or, you know. So family courts were set up to go around probable cause. There's a real problem in America that when you walk into family court, there's no probable cause. If the woman says she's afraid of you, that's it. And you have to prove a negative that you didn't abuse her or you didn't do anything like that. So every lawyer in the country, every judge in the country, every politician in the country knows that the Violence Against Women Act is unconstitutional on its face. But it funds a giant industry, and that's what you're making videos about. It's the malicious prosecution for profit industry. And two of those are the abuse and divorce industries. And they're basically done away with probable cause. And if you can present evidence like I could, they edit it out of the transcripts. They edit the presentation, all to get you in jail or into the system, so that the system will thrive. And you know, the Violence Against Women Act sounds like a good cause, but it's not. That's the funding that funded the malicious prosecution of the Duke lacrosse players. Remember that case? Why did the prosecutor keep on prosecuting those 4 innocent boys 9 months after he discovered that the stripper was lying? For Violence Against Women Act funds. He was not only getting, his department was not only getting his regular pay, but he was double dipping. He was tapping into the Violence Against Women Act fund. The Violence Against Women Act has as much to do with violence against women as the Patriot Act has to do with patriotism. It doesn't. They're just words. And it funds the malicious prosecution of men from coast to coast more than it does the prosecution of men who actually abuse women. So there's 80% of the funding that is being misused, and it's not going into the prosecution of men who actually abuse women. It goes into the malicious prosecution of men for profit. But even though that's happening, you've got psychotic people like
Let's stop a second.
okay.
We can't do anything.
Out and thought this through. The reason why we have a psychotic judiciary, oh, by the way, Mass General Hospital and the Social Security Administration, I have convinced them both that, yes, I'm writing a book called Psychotic Judiciary. And they're backing me. Why? Because they see in their own practice that...
We just lost audio.
Oh,
well, the El Salvador, you said Nazis.
yeah.
So is she German, or is she part El Salvadorian?
She's a quarter Salvadoran.
So the German Nazis were hiding in El Salvador? Or?
Well, he went. The father went there, and basically my ex-father-in-law, his mother was a Salvadoran native,
Yeah.
and his father was from Germany.
And what was the,
In the First World War?
what was the Nazis officer's name?
Jokish.
Oh, you want a
Jokish.
t-shirt?
First name?
You let me get out of here without a t-shirt?
Could I see your ID, please?
Jokish is like the Campbells in
You let me get out of here
Poland,
without a
Germany.
t-shirt.
Well, I started to ask you, but if you want one, you wanted one. I didn't want to thank you, Sarah. Did you grab your shirt?
How much are the t-shirt?
17.
17.
So we just ran out of
Yeah,
batteries.
this had batteries. Should be also.
Psychotic judiciary?
Yeah. Here's why. Because, see, every federal...
Sorry.
16, 49, 01, 15.
Rolling?
So, every federal judge in America, including the Supreme Court, knows that the Violence Against Women Act is unconstitutional on its face because it violates the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause. But they don't strike it down because it's a boom. It's hundreds of billions of dollars each year that goes to the type of people that my ex-wife husband trains: judges, court personnel, police, and social workers. And so consider that. How do federal judges get appointed? They purchase their appointment by raising money for their senator's election campaign or re-election campaign, right? So the people who need, the people who are megalomaniacs or sadists or whatever their psychological problem, are compelled to be good fundraisers. Why? So that they can get into that position of power and carry out their psychotic compulsions. And it's reflected in phrases like "stop quoting the law." I'm in a court of law, and I'm being chastised for quoting the law, and that to stop quoting the law, that the judge is the law, or that their cloaks give them immunity, not the law, because it's not in the law. I mean, the founders actually chiseled equal protection under the law over in granite over the Supreme Court building. I mean, they went so far as to chisel it in granite. But before they took, when they took an oath to preserve and protect the Constitution, but they instill judicial immunity. There's a psychotic break in there someplace. And like I said, I'm getting backing from the Mass General Hospital Mental Health Department as well as the Social Security Administration, because they, as doctors, see the ramifications of a psychotic judiciary. Men committing suicide, fathers committing suicide who don't see their children anymore, suicide by cop. They get violent with their ex-wives. Judicial rulings are the psychoses. The symptoms are what happens to society. And so I finally, I got them to come on board when I said, well, look at the symptoms. I went to Sergeant Hall. I don't know if you've heard of Sergeant Hall. He burned himself to death in front of his family court up in Anniston. I went to his memorial and videotaped it and such like that. That's a symptom of judicial psychosis. Why would a man who why would they do this to a man who fought for his country and is basically a patriot? And it was, and all for money. And just to destroy the family and such like that.
It's like having a wife here. Or a mom.
Grandmother
Or a grandmother.
of the whole.
All right, let me ask you.
So, since the most psychotic lawyers have compulsions to raise the most money to purchase their judicial appointments, that's how the judiciary has become psychotic. How do we get around that? a lottery. That way they can't control who is going to be, in other words, lawyers and judges will no longer be able to control who gets to be judges. Now there is no input from the public regarding who gets to be judges. It's you're a senator. Here it's Kerry, used to be Kennedy, but Kerry now would be the recipient of funding from lawyers who raise money for his re-election, who want to be judges. Like I said, the most psychotic are compelled to raise the most money. But if you made judges, like in Israel, they have mandatory state service. You have to do some sort of service for your country, 2 years or something like that, right? So that's the price lawyers would have to pay to be lawyers, is that if chosen by the lottery, they'd have to be judges for a year or a couple of years or whatever. I think that's a way around them totally controlling which one of their compatriots get to be judges.
Let me ask you, for the benefit of half of the 1,200 people who will be filmed, our family court, you've had success in helping people get the children back.
Yeah, some success.
What's the magic? Or what's the forensic science? What's the science?
Good question. Oh, very good question. You have to embarrass the court. I win as a forensic investigator. I win most of my cases without taking the stand, because I built into my report something to embarrass the court. For example, Keith Machida was just recently voted Mr. Mom by the Boston Globe magazine. He wouldn't have his daughter unless I proved, he figured he was going to be set up by his ex-wife, so I told him to take a camera. He took his cell phone and he videotaped the exchange of the daughter. Well, you could see the daughter didn't want to go with the mother, and then when the daughter was forced and pulled out of the car by the mother was shaking the daughter's arm and saying, "Say goodbye to Daddy. You're never going to see Daddy again. Say goodbye to Daddy." And so she claimed that he abused her during that the exchange of the children, right? So what happened? So he said, "Judge, I have a tape here that shows no violence, And so his wife's lawyer said, well, he must have edited the tape. So the judge said, if you edited that tape, you're going to jail. Now that's not the way it's supposed to be. The judge should have turned to them and said, prove those allegations. They're the ones who made the allegations. They're the ones who should have, like, probable cause. Remember I say probable cause? But since probable cause is out the window, the judge turned to the man, whom she's trained by my ex-wife's husband to do, and said, if you don't prove that. So I took the tape and proved it. How did I prove it? I didn't just watch it. I studied the black burst signal, which is the carrier signal that the color and the audio and all that stuff. Your technical guy here might know about that. So and I saw that there was no anomalies in that carrier signal. So there couldn't be any editing of that. It was an original tape. But I wrote it up so that I embarrassed the court by saying that the court should never have made my client prove this. The court should have made the other side prove it. So the court read my report, and the judge read my report and awarded, without letting me testify, and this is the key, you embarrass the court, you find what the court is doing wrong, and you work it into your strategy, into your legal strategy. The judge gave full custody to my client with no visitation at all from the court. Simply because if I got on the stand, I was going to point out that she had favored the mother and put my client on the spot. But anybody that comes to your website, please refer them to Judicial Bias with a question mark after it. That's an article I wrote about how to investigate your own cases paperwork. I explain what the docket is, I explain what your case file is, I explain what your impounded file is. Most people don't know what an impounded file is. As well as so it's pretty good. It's helped a lot of people. It's out there and my website www.justiceforfamilies.us is filled with cases and case law, so that if you're a newly victimized person, you can go to that website and download case law, download other cases similar to yours, and download articles like that I've written to help people investigate their own court records, because it's a maze. It takes years before you realize what's going on to you when you're in family court.
You say that you've been able to prove that judges alter hearing tapes, transcripts, dockets, and case files
Yes, sir.
to kidnap children under color of law.
Yes.
Tell us how you do that, and give us some examples, if you would, of some of what you found.
Well, as we were talking about earlier, most people don't get their transcripts. The reason I figured out that my court hearing tapes were altered is I wanted to appeal the judge's ruling, because I had presented evidence that showed that these allegations were never to be brought up again. In 1985, the court ordered that these allegations never be brought up again. I presented all that evidence, and then they edited it out of the hearing tapes. So I got a hearing tape to get a transcript made, because, as you know, an appeal, you only appeal from the record. So if you're going to do an appeal, you have to gather your record. I listened to my hearing tapes, and my ex-wife's entire testimony is gone. Something very easy to remember. And the other people who were in the courtroom, it was easy for them to remember. So all three of us wrote affidavits saying, at such and such a point, my ex-wife took the stand and testified for about 12 to 15 minutes. All of us, it was really easy for all of us to remember that, and that's where it started. Now, since 1994, with all of my cases, I've never been in a courtroom that didn't alter the records. It's ubiquitous. I've discovered this, and this is why I've become hated by my state and hated by my federal government, is that I found out that something that all judges and all lawyers do. They alter the records to help them maliciously prosecute. It's almost guaranteed. And like I said, Judicial Bias with a question mark is out there. Anybody can Google it and download it, and that'll help them get started analyzing their own case. And I explain all the different aspects of the record, the court record. And like I said, most people don't know that any psychological, if your ex-wife goes to a social worker or a psychiatrist or something, and they generate an evaluation on what she said, and they send it to the court, it goes into the impounded file. You could look through your case file all day and night and never find it. And you don't know it's there, poisoning your case. So that's why people have to be educated as to what the impounded files are. That's where the psychological evaluations go. That stuff isn't supposed to be privy to the public at large, so it's not in your case file. Most people don't even know that an impounded file exists. So that's a good place to start, knowing if you're being poisoned by some social worker or psychiatrist that has never interviewed you, but just repeats your ex-wife's false allegations as truth and poisons your case. That happens so much, people don't even know it's there.
Can you email me with some links to go to some things that are just undeniable proof of the alterations,
Sure,
so that I can
absolutely.
grab them to insert in your video? 'Cause
Absolutely.
you've got the goods, I know, and we just want to lay it right on them.
Yes, yeah, my website is just chock-a-block with articles, father proves, courts alter tapes. Of course, they wouldn't be able to print that unless it were true. I have four documentaries up on YouTube right now. I'll send you the links for those. I condemn the governors and the attorney generals of several states on there. Now, those people wouldn't allow me to have that up on YouTube if I wasn't telling the truth. I
Have you
don't.
been sued by any of these people?
No.
Me either.
Yeah, as long as you stick to the truth, you can't be held liable for, well, slander or libel.
In theory.
And I'm trained as a forensic, well, yeah, right. But I'm trained, I don't go, I know how to condemn people using facts and not my opinion. I rarely, as an expert witness, use my opinion. I always say, well, fact A plus fact B says this. It's the fact, I let the facts do the talking and rarely inject my own personality, my own opinion in there.
Did you have a question?
No.
Oh, it looked like you raised
Let's
your
reach
hand.
your hand.
Scratching your head. Steve?
Do I have any questions? I want to talk to you further.
Yeah, me too.
What all needs to change?
Well, the way judges are elected, are appointed, first of all. And, well, like I say, Eric Holder is being, the House Judiciary Committee is going after Eric Holder, smoke and mirrors. Because they both know that state and federal courts are altering records and are operated as criminal enterprises. It's bipartisan cover-up of the issues that you and I are involved in. They do the Arizona, I just came back from Arizona and Carla and all that such. Well, remember that picture of the governor and arguing with Obama when he got off the plane? That was about who's going to secure the border. Okay, they can argue about stuff like that, but it's bipartisan. They're not enemies when it comes to covering up that their courts, both state and federal, operate as criminal enterprises, and the legal industry is just chock-a-block with malicious prosecution for profit.
Are you saying that all cases in the U.S. are rigged by all judges?
Can't say that, but what I can say is every federal judge in America, including the Supreme Court, are corrupt just by virtue of the fact that the Violence Against Women Act has been allowed to stand for 16 years, and that judicial immunity has been allowed to stand since 1946, when they snuck it in, when the focus of the country was in World War II. They snuck in judicial immunity in defiance of their oath to protect and preserve to the Constitution. And that's what brings me back to they're so corrupt. It's when you talk about corruption, Bill, people, their eyes glaze over it, but when you talk about psychotic judges, it perks up their interest a little bit more, I found. That's why I went to that extreme, if you will, but I can back it up. They're psychotic. They are megalomaniacs. They are sadists, and they have sought that position in life to carry out their psychotic compulsions, which includes enjoying, and I do mean this, enjoying destroying families for profit. Yesterday, 4 attorney generals, assistant attorney generals, were locked in a room with Sarah Johnson and the judge, and they were bringing her to tears. They wouldn't let her take a break. They wouldn't let her consult with her lawyer. They wouldn't let her have transcripts. They wouldn't let her objections, and they were laughing at her. And I've been laughed at by judges. I've been laughed at by social workers. It's sick, sick society. The agenda that drives family court is, if women and gays are to be equal, we must destroy marriage and the traditional family. That's the stated agenda of the feminist gay lesbian community. I've been hearing it since 1970s. And how do you destroy marriage? You redefine it to include stuff that's not marriage. How do you destroy the traditional family? You pass the Violence Against Women Act to get rid of the father and use false allegations to get rid of the father. Our courts and the feminist gay lesbian community have an unholy alliance to destroy the traditional family and replace it with a Soviet-type worker bees. Remember, in the Soviet Union, women were no longer wives and mothers. They got promoted to comrades, and it took decades, but that system fell apart. In fact, a year ago, they had a copulation day. Everybody gets sent home in Russia to make babies because they needed to grow their society, because when you destroy families, you don't grow society.
So are corrupt judges the reason why international bankers and corporations own you and me and the U.S.?
It goes beyond just judges, because the Department of Justice is not prosecuting any of these bankers, are they? That have destroyed our economy by coming up with fictitious mortgages and stuff like that. I've been in my house for the last 4 years without paying a mortgage, by the way, simply because they've screwed up my. They've been overtly, maliciously prosecuting me for this and that they've gone too far. And I don't pay my mortgage, I don't pay my real estate taxes, I don't pay my water bill, and I don't pay my house insurance, simply because I've caught them doing all, manipulating the records and such like that. So if they come back and try to foreclose on me again, I'll just take them to court for, I'll just take the lawyers to the Board of Bar Overseers. They don't want to do it. So for 4 years. There's a woman in Florida who's gone for 26 years without paying a mortgage. I'm shooting for her record. No, but things are out of control. I mean, Eric Holder just got found guilty of lying to Congress, right?
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious. Yeah. But so what did the Department of Justice do the very next day? We will not prosecute Eric Holder.
They don't prosecute criminals, the official criminals, if they have connections.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Eric Holder is guilty of a lot worse things than that.
You're damn straight.
He knows that state and federal courts operate as criminal enterprises. I've personally informed him of that, and he does nothing, and neither does the House Judiciary. That's why you and I are both making these videos, to get them on the public record, because Congress isn't allowing us to place our complaints on Congress's record, because then they would have to come up with a solution.
Well, meet me in D.C. on January 9th.
January 9th?
Because we're going to take all 35 hours of DVD video and deliver it to each member of the House and Senate. And we're hoping to have one constituent for each of the representatives. We're going to film the whole thing. And they're going to all be on, it's all going to be on record. Then we're all going over.
I'll be there.
We're all going over by bus to the Washington Post.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to demand to see a senior editor.
Excellent. This is how you do it.
Hopefully we will embarrass them
That's what's
to
gonna
do
take.
the right thing for the wrong reasons.
Right, exactly
Sometimes
right.
that's what you're gonna do.
Right.
So
lawyers and judges run this country through courts. I mean, Gore and Bush, who decided that election? A judge. A judge is supposed to be deciding elections.
What does Shakespeare say about lawyers?
Yeah, right. What, start killing them now?
we have only so far had one state representative to be filmed, though. We have a sheriff who's emailed me today who wants to speak out. We have some others coming up, but Representative Jim Gooch from the great state of Kentucky.
Terrific.
And he appeared after the state of Kentucky uninvited us to use the Capitol for filming, which had been granted for several months.
Right.
So he came out to the hotel in some boondock town, and he said he had something he wanted to say, and he sat down in the chair, and I said, well, Representative Gooch, you wanted to speak. What was it you'd like to say before I ask you some questions? He said, well, I think the root of almost all of our problems in America can be traced to attorneys.
Yes.
And he said, I know I'm putting a great big target on my back by saying that, but he said, I've been elected for 20 years.
Right.
And he says, my constituents know that I'm honest and tell the truth, so I'm not that worried about it.
Right.
You know. And I asked him, I said, I've always wondered whether after you guys get elected, if they call you together for a meeting as soon as you report to duty and tell you how it's really done. He said, that's exactly what they do.
Well, who was the wrestler who got voted governor of Michigan? What's his name?
Minnesota, Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura. That's in his book. He said when he got to Washington, D.C., they took him into a room, sat him down, and told him how it operates.
So your constituents don't really matter.
That's right.
You take care of your party.
That's exactly right.
That's the way it's
And
done.
the trouble is that both parties, what we have is bipartisan cover-up of all the industries run by lawyers and judges. And they're not only stealing children, they steal seniors and drain their estates. They steal the mentally and physically challenged. And people who can't, they are predators, Bill.
Bob Hurt out of Florida, lawyers take oaths to each other, and judges take a separate oath. So it's not to the Constitution, it's to their secret entity, and that's what they owe their allegiance to.
Right, and I've heard, yeah, right. Well, it's true. It's true. But they did take an oath to protect and preserve the Constitution, and they can't divorce themselves from that, no matter how hard they try.
But they take a higher oath to each other that supersedes.
Well, that's what I've always been saying. They take an oath, never intending to fulfill that oath.
Yeah.
That they have an allegiance to something like VAWA above everything else, because it's hundreds of billions of dollars. And okay, who did Vice President Biden is the author of the Violence Against Women Act. When President Obama chose him as a vice presidential candidate, he sent a coded message to all lawyers and judges throughout the country that he was endorsing their malicious prosecution for profit schemes. And who became the biggest contributors to the Obama election campaign? Lawyers and law firms. There's a connection there.
Any last words? Any other thing you want to talk about or point you want to make?
Well, we really need to, we need more people like you and I out there trying to get people to band together to embarrass our government into doing what they took an oath to do in the first place. Uphold the Constitution. You know, I'm into the Tea Party because Democrats and Republicans are the same thing. Just two sides of a bad coin. They're all in on it together. And I believe we need a third party to break that, to break us out of that stranglehold that the Democrats and Republicans have over the political process. But did you know that the original 13th Amendment said that lawyers could not? So when did they get rid of the original 13th Amendment? During the War of 1812. The British bombed the Library of Congress, right? And when they reassembled it, during the wartime, the original 13th Amendment disappeared. And during the Second World War, they instigated the federal rules of civil procedure and the federal rules of criminal procedure. Both two major events that they took advantage of wars to sneak in there. And just think of how different our country would be if, and the reasoning was that lawyers shouldn't be part of Congress because they'll pass laws that benefit lawyers, right? Isn't that exactly what's come to be?
Well, you talk about creating another party. I've registered nobodies.us, nobodies.us, and
None of the above.
99% of us are nobodies.
Right.
You know, it's the 1%. So
Right.
maybe we could get everybody to realize that, as you say, the Democrats and Republicans are the same. Our fundamental problem is dishonesty and the loss of our constitutional rights.
Exactly.
And it's been greed and power that, in my view, and yours obviously from what you said, that has caused this, and we need to get the 99% to realize what's going on. So the idea behind this movie originally was a joke. It wasn't a movie. It was how are we going to wake people up? And I said, well, if we can't get the mainstream media to cover it, I'll drive around to all 50 states until I've met a million people.
Very good idea.
Excellent idea.
And then 2 years later, somebody said, whatever happened to that idea? I said, well, I wasn't really serious about it. I said, but I guess if I go, I ought to take a camera. Well, from that moment forward, it wasn't any question. Everybody said, well, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You got to do it. And the camera, as you know, it's like a magnet.
Right. Have you had a chance to see any of the videos I have up on YouTube?
You know, I think I saw one
Kidnapping
a few
in
months
Maryland?
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a mother. They put her in a mental institution so that they could unlawfully award custody of her child to her ex-husband, who is
Connected.
Exactly.
Well, it's their favorite technique is to say,
Yes.
say all of us are crazy.
Right.
And as I've said, if a lunatic is somebody like Zed McCarty and I who will fight to the end to try to bring about justice, we're proud to be lunatics.
That's right, I am.
All right, that's a wrap.
Okay, thank you. I hope all that.
I'd love to talk to you for hours more.
We could, couldn't we?
We'll do it.
I'll be there in January.
Great.
Got a camera
That's
man?
going to be a great occurrence. Yeah,
I'm getting a lot of people who are committing. It was an idea that came out of a bunch of folks sitting around saying, you know, when we were in DC and we went to the, we were at the, somebody got us a little meeting room at the, I think it was in the Russell building, and somebody said, you know, how are you going to get these things? I said, I was just going to send them to them. And they said, well, we've got to do something different other than that.
Right.
I said, all right, let's do this.
Well,
We get a picture of us
Oh,
together.
picture of us?
Put the
But then
flash
we're
on
on the
though.
ball,
Let's,
yeah.
Let's see what.
let's see if we get,
All right. Okay.
all right, my buddy Zed.
Right.
I've got everybody alphabetized by their the first name.
How do you turn it on?
Yeah. You're last on the list.
I'm the final word in justice.
And flash, but how did it do?
Want to do one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Yeah, a little shadowy, but that'll work. Well,
Pleasure.
thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
My pleasure.
Let's keep in touch
I'll watch the rest of the
and,
videos as soon as I.
There's a lot of information on there, including Romney. He's part of it too.
Oh, listen, I used to work for Romney, and he's
Oh,
a
yeah.
smart businessman.
He is.
But I wrote him and said, I was CEO of a Bain company. I said, you got to make this an issue, and I would like to meet with you and interview you.
Oh,
He
I didn't
never
put it
extended
on
the
there.
courtesy.
But you know what? You know what the Supreme Judicial Court of Massachusetts did under Romney? They took my case. I forgot to put that on there, and rewrote the anti-SLAPP law to immunize perjury by my ex-wife and all women who commit perjury, and perjury by her husband, and all social workers who submit fraudulent clinical evaluations. So in Massachusetts, because of my law, McLaren versus Jokic, the new anti-SLAPP law, when a father walks into family court, his ex-wife has immunity, her lawyers have qualified immunity, her social worker has immunity, and of course the judge has immunity. He's the only person in the courtroom who doesn't have immunity. But of course, nobody has immunity in America according to the Constitution.
Right.
It's
You don't have immunity
impounded
for-
files that corrupt the justice system?
Yeah,
Impounded.
impound. Yeah,
You don't have
impounded
immunity
files.
for criminal acts and all that these people are doing.
Oh yeah, it's
Hey, you want
amazing.
to come over?
Sure.
Impounded files are where your psychological evaluations go.
Yeah.
I rewrote this.
Okay.
I have a
great.
question, if I may.
Sure.
Work for a small town hall,
Uh-huh.
okay? There was public corruption and embezzlement,
Right.
okay? I did through the chain of command, I reported it to my board, I was Board of Health. I reported it to my board.
Oh, you're so sweet.
The board was corrupt, reported it to the administrator corrupt, the chief of police corrupt, the selectmen.
That's how they do it.
We'll never
Okay.
drink all the water,
Now,
but we sure
since
appreciate
on
it.
March 16, 2010, they sent a police officer to my house after work to let me go.
It wasn't a dry erase
Okay.
marker that I used.
Oh, it wasn't?
Since
You did a
then,
permanent
my
one,
computer
so
and
we
my
can't get it
phone
off?
have been
I
compromised.
think I've got
Okay,
Got
I've tried
permanent
everything
off.
under the sun. My PC I had sent to
Lacquer
a
just
takes-
forensic auditor
You take
in
lacquer
DC,
thinner,
and she
I
sent
guess.
it back to
Lacquer
me.
thinner,
Lacquer thinner
When I got
or
back on
nail
it,
polish remover, you
the
gotta
town had
dry some
installed a
first on the side.
toolkit into my computer.
I've heard all this stuff before.
Okay,
Yeah.
and
Everything you say is ringing true.
my husband's name has been changed to Mason Cooper with his social security number. They took over our cell phones. Where do I go with the technology part of this?
Let me give you, do you have my email?
Nope.
It's zed.mc
Scribble over it.
ZED.
at verizon.net. If you could email me that question, I'll email you back links and places to go.
Okay, I am really limited because we do have a toolkit on my computer.
Oh, I see.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm tapped on phone.
Okay, 78, I was gonna give you my phone. Gee.
See, that's been my problem. I mean, I just went to Delmar, Maryland
Uh-huh,
to put my case together.
right.
Okay, I've been fighting it for a couple of years. I've been doing a hard copy. I've been going to
Uh-huh.
Staples, taking out
Uh-huh.
cash.
Really?
They don't know what I'm
Right,
doing.
Yeah, so go to a internet cafe and contact me from there.
Internet cafe.
Yeah. It's free computer usage. Or go to your law library, closest law library. I'm gonna get out of here so that you guys can get.
All right, thank you. Would you like some water for the road?
No, I'm fine.
How about some Pop-Tarts?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stephen G. Erickson.
How are you doing, Stephen? Good. I may have seen you before, you seem familiar. Thanks a lot.
No
Appreciate
problem, thank
it.
you, Ted.
If you Google judicial corruption Connecticut,
Uh-huh.
target on enemies list, you can Google that, and
Okay.
that'll all come up as like 1, 2, or
Yeah.
3.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Let's be in touch with each other.
All right, thanks.
Good luck, take care.
Yes.
And Antonio's getting out this month. Well, he got his appeal. You know, you gotta pay attention.
I agree. It starts out small and then it sucks people in. Then you've got all these judges and politicians, they know about things that were crooked, you know, it's called imprisonment of felony. They know about felonies.
Right.
They didn't do anything about it, and they can be blackmailed and just no end to it.
No, there isn't any end to it. It just keeps rising and rising and rising. And it's time we take our country back, you know? And I think this, unfortunately, I think we're heading in for a revolution. I really do. I hope we don't have to see one, but
Well, I hope we can do it with,
common sense.
yeah, with the movie and with raising awareness and going to Washington and embarrassing these guys. I mean, it's a long shot, but it's the only shot we got right now.
You take any long shot you can get.
Yeah.
You take any opportunity you can get.
You know, I mean, I've got a newspaper in Pittsburgh that says they want to run a story about it. You know, all it would take would be one, even Pittsburgh paper,
Yeah.
mainstream media that potentially could get picked up by others and get out on the wire.
Wiki.
You're on op-ed news as of me sitting on the couch earlier.
So I called the Washington Examiner mainstream media, and somebody got mad at me. I said, hey, it's the most mainstream we've got.
It was nice meeting you.
right.
I hope not to see
Guy,
your
is
face
a-
in a bad light, but in a good light, okay?
Yep. Keep in touch.
You take care. Good
Yep.
luck.
There's, you know, there's got to be somebody who will step up. And by the time it's over, we will have emailed every newspaper or television media person in the country. And so we're going out, we scrape their websites right before we send the news releases. So we grab all the email addresses right off their website current, plug it into the database we already have with everything else, and blast it out to all of them.
This is more of what needs to be done. As a matter of fact, Angelique and I went, it was a year ago, we went to the Restoring Honor by Glenn Beck on the Lincoln Memorial Wall. And it was basically moms It was 1,000,000 moms in prayer.
Mhm.
And never witnessed anything so phenomenal in my life.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking to myself, if there's this many people out there that are aware at this point what is going on,
Mhm.
then we have a chance,
Mhm.
you know? But they gotta fight.
Mhm.
You can't just be aware, you've gotta fight,
Mhm.
you know? Unfortunately, when you do fight. All right, I'm heading back to the
Sometimes
gate.
you,
Good
you
luck.
get it.
I'm sure you'll do much better than me. I'm better with paperwork than I am with
You
my
did-
mouth.
You did fine.
No, the
That was
marshals
nice
said
of
they
you.
were gonna, or the internal affairs division has sent
Nick
me this
Sweeney's out of the
anonymous
house.
email saying they were taking my complaints very seriously, but they haven't actually assigned anybody that I can tell.
Well, I mean, they'd have to say that, taking it very seriously, so that's a good sign.
Bill?
Yeah.
Just a sec. My email, apparently, the hotel or whatever, something happened, and I was in the middle of sending out a
It
big
was a
long
pleasure
deal.
meeting you.
Pleasure meeting you.
The best.
Tell
Now you
Angelique I
watch
said
out.
hi.
Thank you.
Oh, God watches over you. Things get better.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
You will be full again. You will. For all your trials and tribulations, you will be full again.
You want some,
Pop
Pop-Tarts.
Tarts. He's been selling them since I got here.
is that an okay?
Did your wife come on this trip?
No. She wouldn't come. She tried to talk me out of it 3 days before. She said, I want to talk to you after dinner. I said, I don't know. She said, I want you to cancel the trip. I said, Barbara. She said, well, who do you love more, me or the 1,000 people you know only by email and on the talk sheet? I said, you know, I love you, but I said, there's a lot of folks counting on something being done, and they're counting on this. Then when she read what letters that people wrote after they'd been filmed, she's on board now.
Okay.
She's now heard enough of the stories to get her to become a bit of an advocate. But she's worried about these guys. The two little ones at the bottom are our grandchildren. That's my wife on the left. She's afraid somebody will do something to them.
You like that?
That was good. So,
Do you know your website's down again?
pardon me?
Your website is down again this afternoon.
This afternoon? They may have taken it.
When you Google it, it says this this site may harm your computer.
Yeah, we've had that ever since they hacked it yesterday, I guess it was.
You went to Connecticut, and that's behind the Iron Curtain. And I wanted to see you in Connecticut, but I like breathing.
Well, I understand that in terms of possession of various things, Massachusetts worse.
They came up into Massachusetts, this is Connecticut State Police, and the horse farm that I was staying in, all the electronics burned out of the house. All the electronics burned out of the house of my friend Chris Kennedy in Ellington, Connecticut.
You rolling? Yep. All right, this is Steve. Well, I understand that it's against the law to have a stun gun or pepper spray in Massachusetts without a permit. Good luck finding it in the Jeep, that's all I can say if they want to get me in trouble.
Oh, I'm having the same problem with this memory.
Yeah, they don't like to, they don't like to cooperate. You want to go in or out?
In.
I lost one of my computers, my laptops, with that.
You only have 9 minutes left on one? Is that a new, oh, you put it in, you're going to format it now.
Yeah.
I can't believe we killed that battery already.
Oh, wow. I didn't even notice that.
You don't plug it into power.
We got a charger over here and 3 batteries, so we just keep rotating.
So there's 41 more minutes.
All right, Steve, look right straight at the camera and just say Steve or Stephen G. Erickson or whatever.
My name is
On his
Steve-
signal. No, my name is just name.
Stephen G. Erickson.
Okay, this time on his signal, my name is Stephen G. Erickson.
My name.
Oh, wait.
My name is Stephen G. Erickson.
Okay, city and state on the signal.
Brattleboro, Vermont.
Okay. Are you a victim?
I'm a victim of public corruption, judicial abuse, and police misconduct.
Okay, so we're going to call that, we'll do those each one separately. Government corruption, we use rather than public, that's all right. So government corruption on his signal into the lens.
Government corruption.
Now, civil court corruption, criminal court, or both?
Both.
Civil court corruption on his signal.
Civil court corruption.
Now, criminal court corruption on his signal.
Criminal court corruption.
Last but not least, law enforcement abuse.
Law enforcement abuse.
Now, are you also an advocate?
I'm a judicial reform advocate. I think the court should be reformed. I'd like to do away with judges completely and go with the grand jury if I could.
All right. So let's say judicial reform advocate on
Yeah.
Lyle's signal.
Judicial reform advocate.
My name is Stephen G. Erickson. I'm from Brattleboro, Vermont. And I'm a victim of civil court corruption, criminal court corruption, government corruption, law enforcement abuse, and I'm also an advocate for judicial reform, or just say all of it together in one sentence into the camera.
My name is Stephen G. Erickson. I found myself in exile in Brattleboro, Vermont, out of Stafford Springs, Connecticut. I'm a victim of judicial abuse, government corruption, and police misconduct.
All right, if you roll the tape. Steve, if you just acknowledge on camera that you willingly signed a release.
I signed a release to be part of this film.
That's good, thanks. All right, a 3-minute statement to Congress.
My name is Steve.
Wait a minute, wait, I'll give you signals.
Okay.
He'll tell you when to start. I forgot on a couple people. 2 minutes, 1 minute, 30 seconds, wrap it up. Introduce yourself as you were getting ready to, broad overview, some specifics, and then make sure you leave. If I get to this point, try to get as soon as you can to tell them what needs to change. And if you want to spend most of the time talking about that, you can do that as well. But this will go to the Congress and the state legislators, and you're speaking to 16 people in the room.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Stephen G. Erickson. Hello, elected officials. I want to know if you agree that if someone in America gets married, buys a house, has children, has a small business, whether police and the courts should rake them over the coals, try to break up the family for profit, take away your kids, take away your house, and if you complain about the revenue collection system, they're out to put you in jail. In some cases even send police informants out to kill you. I bought a house in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. A police officer who lived with his mother decided he liked my wife. Told me I didn't deserve her. Was followed around, he threatened me with arrest, told me I wasn't allowed to speak at Crime Watch meetings I co-founded. And he said that if I talked to elected officials about proposing laws, I would be arrested. Told me I was kicked out of Connecticut. You know, I wanted youth to go well. I mean, I had a, but he said I interrupted the revenue collection system of lawyers, of police, and of the courts, and that it wouldn't be allowed. So I didn't want a cocaine dealer dealing drugs near my house. So he attacked me, the drug dealer, bit my ear, punched me in the face several times. And so the officer that liked my wife, who had assaulted me at my house in front of my neighbors, arrested me later on. He had the witnesses change their stories to say that I attacked the drug dealer. So for having my ear bitten, I bled down to my underwear, I was beaten up, I was faced a year and a half in jail. And then I found myself being followed around by police, threatened, and it just kept escalating where it involved the state police and the court. Ended up getting a year in jail for being attacked on my property by a police informant. He threatened me for 2 weeks, telling me he was going to kill me. At the same time, police were showing up, kicking my door after midnight, going, "Stevie boy, come out! Hi, Stevie boy!" So when I got attacked on my property, I got arrested. Lost my family, my house, everything. And the police were threatening me with this before it happened, before I was even arrested. So should this happen in America? You know, should victims of the system be compensated? Should judges have their finances looked into? Because I know that they're profiting. I can get you information on that. What are police doing? Why do police have hundreds of thousands of dollars when they go shoot up the courthouse and shoot their wife and their wife's lawyer, like in Connecticut? There's so much going on. Nothing's investigated. Will you do something?
Great.
You like that?
I loved it. Different than anybody else.
Oh yeah.
All right, now we'll roll it. I'll need a time code.
18, 55, 41, 15.
Okay, we'll roll it. Are we rolling? All right, let's go back. When did you find this sweet woman that you married?
I met her in Lithuania, drinking in London, and I don't know, it's somehow back and forth ended up in Lithuania, and I met her. I stayed on her parents' farm, and one thing led to another. She came back, put her through accounting school, got a house, got married somewhere in between. So,
When did you get married?
Flag Day, June 14th, 1994.
And did children follow?
I had a child already, Sarah.
All right. And did you have any children with her?
No, I did not.
And is there anything about the story that's important before this policeman enters your life?
I had a choice of staying in Lithuania doing import-export. I'm an American, so I figured I'm going to go back, I'm going to buy a house, I'm going to live the American dream. And I got used to staying in downtown areas, having lived in, not really lived, but I was in Europe for an extended period of time in the former Soviet Union. And I got to like being downtown, walking to the shops, and the downtown life. And, you know, the same arts, entertainment, eating, and all that. I wanted to capture the same atmosphere again, so I ended up getting a house in Stafford Springs, Connecticut. And what I didn't realize is that if you don't have a grandfather buried in the local cemetery, you can't really own anything. You can't run a business. It's by permission of the selectmen, of the police, of the courts. And if I was basically told to leave and leave my wife, you know, and police officers, there was a Pakistani that owned, he was the son of a Pakistani, so he was born here in America. He had a pizza parlor, and they ran him out of town because he was going out with white girls. And another guy had a kid with a woman. She was very attractive. The police officer got the guy fired from his job, kept harassing him and threatening him with jail. So if a police officer in a corrupt town wants your wife, wants your house, wants your car, police wanted me to... I considered being a police officer when I went to Stafford Springs. I talked to the Lieutenant Trapp, and he kind of guided me in what he wanted me to do. And what I realized is to become a police officer, one of the ways was to be a police informant. Some police informants have criminal records, and they basically commit crimes for police to help take people's property, set them up for fines, set them up for arrests, file false police reports. And what Lieutenant Trapp wanted, there's certain guns he wanted for his own collection. He used to go to gun shows, see who bought what, and he wanted large capacity round weapons specifically, so he would target individuals that had these weapons to get them for himself. And I guess it's a common practice where if a police officer likes something, or if you're in competition for business, you use covert means to take whatever you want. And what I found out when Fat Frank Prochaska of Stafford Springs, he would listen to all my phone calls. This is before 2001. He was on my internet, would follow me to and from jobs. Police would follow me to and from. This is just for liking my wife. And teenagers that were selling drugs in front of my house were in cahoots with the police. Vandals, you know, if somebody vandalizes your house or you have property, you can be fined $75 a day in certain communities. So vandals work for the police. Prostitutes can get free rent from landlords if the landlord isn't connected, because the police offer and the police protect the prostitutes. And I went to the selectmen about 2 armed drug dealers, and the police were basically after me. They don't want to hear anything about crime. They're going after collecting revenue. They want to go after soccer moms going to and from work for if she has one extra drink, or if they're arguing with their kids at the playground. They offer DCF workers money somehow for filing false reports. I'm friends with or was friend with a police officer, Richard Merzen. Since retired as narcotics officer. He did surveillance as a private investigator, and when he told on bad cops that were involved with the organized crime, they went after his entire family. They arrested him for using gas to get home. If you word search Rick Goldstein, he also proposed civilian oversight of police, as did I. And Rick Goldstein fled to Sweden. He was so harassed by police in Connecticut. And Rich Merzen was mentioned in one of Rick Goldstein's videos. For over 20 years, they went after his entire family, just kept harassing him. And I was going to do a production like this with Rich Merzen and A.J. Fontaine around this time last year, I believe. And one died of natural causes, and the other one died of natural causes a couple days later, and so I didn't go down because I didn't want to be number 3 of dying of natural causes, so I'm a little bit afraid of Connecticut.
This police officer, Fat Frank?
Fat Frank Prochaska, living with mommy, yep.
Living with your wife?
No, living with his mother.
Oh, living with his mother.
Yeah, he, I don't know, it's like with no personality, and I've talked to a girl in Connecticut, the one that sent me the email that with your link that blew up my computer. Well, she was telling me she also lived in Stafford Springs, and when she got popped for drugs, somebody else got her to buy marijuana over else, so they arrested her. And so this Fat Frank Prochaska was trying to sleep with her. He's trying to sleep with underage girls. He's doing this and that. You know, they basically run around. They think they can have sex, take whatever they want, beat people up, and there's absolutely no control of you know, what are supposed to be, you know, protect and serve. Sleeping with prostitutes. I mean, it's just, how big a scumbag do you have to be, lying scumbag, to break up families, take somebody's house. I went from owning 3 rental properties to homeless, freezing in the woods in Vermont. They terrorized. I was in Massachusetts, and I went all the way to Vermont to get away from the Connecticut State Police. And every day that I live, I feel it's a borrowed day.
You want to explain to those who may not know what you mean by borrowed day? What is your fear?
Well, if the police can just show up and arrest me, I mean, I was threatened. My life was threatened. I had 2 properties, 2 sets of properties, one in Somersville and a 3 and 4 family in Stafford Springs. And in each case, when I came home, I'd have my keys in my hand and run into my house, because I knew if I was attacked by a police informant on my property, that I'd be arrested, I'd lose my property, and I'd go to jail, because that's what the cops had threatened me with. And that's what happened. So for being attacked on my property, police informant beat me up on my house, said, "Give me your money or I'm going to kill you." And this is after leaving voicemails, telling my tenants he was going to kill me when I got home. I pepper sprayed him. I got a year in jail for that. And the police tried to make it hard for me in jail. I was labeled a snitch, and they tried to get me to get an off-campus pass, what they don't give out, where I would be with the state police out on the highway. And I figured they're just going to pull ahead, and I'm going to get shot for trying to escape, because it was just a nightmare. I could write a whole book on the nightmare of being in jail for retaliation. And I read the inmate's handbook, so I knew that I didn't have to take any job. They threatened me more time and never getting out of jail. And when I was released, the Stafford Springs police officer, John Desso, who's also lieutenant of the guards at the prison, told me I was kicked out of Connecticut, that I had to leave. So after I was done parole, I was given an hour to pack up my stuff and leave the state. I went from having 3 basements of my property full of antiques, whatever else. I had a Corvette, I had a boat, camper. I went from having business, property, to having nothing. My daughter hasn't called me daddy since I went to jail. And that was one of the things I would lose my daughter, not see her again. That's what I was threatened with for if I was politically active. I talked to my father. He's supposed to report to the police if I have a girlfriend, a job, or a place to live. So it's ongoing. I consider leaving the country. I want to be free and American somewhere else, where I don't have to deal with the constant problems. I've been pulled over and threatened by police, you know, whether they have a license plate scanner. I try not to go to Connecticut, because even when I owned property, they had put police guards out in front of town hall, so I couldn't speak at town hall. At the Capitol in Hartford, the state police, if they've